What's up YouTube, it's Ryan from AnnihilatorMTG here, and I'm back again with some more Modern. This week we're going to be playing Domain Aggro. While trying to figure out what to play for this video, I ran into this list and honestly it seems like a ton of fun. I'm not really one to play creature heavy builds like Zoo, but the domain aspect of this list is really fascinating, so let's break it down. First and foremost, this deck is cram-packed with a variety of fetches, shocks, and triomes. The main idea here is to get all 5 land types on board in the fewest amount of lands possible. We can accomplish this by getting a triome on turn 1 and a shock on turn 2, all the while avoiding any overlap in colors between those 2 lands. The big payoffs for this sequence are Territorial Kavu, Tribal Flames, and Scion of Draco. The first 2 have the aforementioned domain mechanic, making the Kavu up to a 5/5 and giving the Tribal Flames up to 5 damage respectively, whereas the Scion gets a massive discount in mana cost, specifically costing 2 less mana for each land type you control. With this card on the field, every single one of your creatures are going to have a myriad of extra abilities. So what other creatures are we dealing with? It wouldn't be the post-modern Horizons 2 landscape without cascade spells, and this deck is no different. We have full playsets of both Bloodbraid Elf and Shardless Agent, and while we won't be cascading into broken spells like Living End, the value that we get from these 2 is staggering. We also can't forget about General Ferrous, and of course Mantis Rider. General Ferrous Wheel over here is actually really good. Since most of our cards are multicolor, this thing generates tokens for days, and the added protection doesn't hurt either, while Mantis Rider brings that immediate board presence that we need, and when combined with Scion, it is an absolute menace. The rest of the deck was kind of slapped together from a bunch of different lists that I saw online, and I take absolutely zero credit for building this. With that said, let's hop into the first match and see how it goes. Alrighty, looks like we found our opponent. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand is pretty bad. Let's try it again. That's certainly better. We'll keep shipping the basic. Let's get things started with our fetch. That way we can set up domain as soon as possible. They lead off with a basic island into a copy of Serum Visions. During their end step, we'll crack our fetch, grabbing an Abzan Triome. We draw Temple Garden. Let's play our Steam Vents untapped, netting ourselves the 5 basic land types. And now we can cast the Scion for 2 mana, which is kind of ridiculous. If we can follow this up with a multicolored creature, we'll be set. Second verse same as the first, as they cast another Serum Visions. Then they play another basic island and pass the turn. Drawing Lightning Bolt number 2, I think we'll play our Temple Garden untapped and then cast Manamorphose, choosing red-green and sadly hitting a land. No worries, we'll use the residual red mana to cast one of our Lightning Bolts, then attack them for 4, bringing their life total down to 13, and now we can just hold up our second bolt if needed. Up next they play an untapped Steam Vents and dash out a Ragavan. Well, it's a good thing we have another bolt. Let's cast it as they attack. Oh wow, and they respond with a Spell Pierce. Very nice. Their Ragavan will live, hitting us for 2 and revealing a Mantis Rider. Would have loved to draw that. On their second main phase, they cast a DRC, bouncing the Ragavan to hand and passing the turn. Figures, we untap and draw another land. While this is super annoying, it does give us the ability to hardcast Fury next turn. With that in mind, we're gonna stay aggressive and swing in for 4. Before anything else, they cast a Thought Scour, bidding a Mishra's Bauble in the process. Delirium is now online. Then they cast Expressive Iteration. While the value on this card is tremendous, I think they're running out of time. The spell resolves as they swing in. Then they play a Flooded Strand. Let's crack ours during the end step, grabbing our second Triome. And we draw Tribal Flames. Excellent. Let's attack with our Scion. Before damage, they crack their fetch, finding an untapped Steam Vents. Then they cast Unholy Heat, targeting our creature. It dies, but now barring a Force of Negation, we should be in the clear. We cast the Flames, and that'll do it. Since we're a little unfamiliar with Domain Aggro, sideboarding is going to be awkward. With that said, I think we want to cut the Bloodbraid since they're a bit slow. Then we can bring in another Fury and 3 copies of Chalice. Stuff like Path, Weather the Storm, and Rest in Peace are also possible inclusions, but we'll stick with this for now. This hand doesn't have any turn 1 interaction, but outside of that, it looks pretty good. We'll keep. To start things off, they jam a Spiral Bluff Canal and play a DRC, casting the follow-up Mishra's Bauble and bidding a land in the process. Then they crack the Bauble, we see a Triome, getting a little flooded here. Let's play it. This does allow us to preserve our life total a bit, so it's no big deal. Up next, they cast DRC number 2, that's a little scary. Then they play and crack a Misty Rainforest, finding a basic island and casting a Thought Scour. All that milling has enabled Delirium, so they'll attack us for 3, bringing our life total down to 17. We draw our second copy of Tribal Flames, not bad. Let's play the Sacred Foundry untapped, then cast cast the Manamorphose. This enables us to both filter our mana and draw another card. It's a good one. With that said, we'll Lightning Helix one of their dudes, bringing our life total back to 18, and then we'll pass. They play and crack a Flooded Strand, grabbing a basic island. Then they cast a Serum Visions, attacking us for 3 once again. Oh wow, and they cast a 5/5 Murktide Regent. What's interesting here is they could have pushed it further, but since they didn't, that keeps it in range for the Tribal Flames. Regardless, we draw Scion. Let's player fetch and attempt to cast Tribal Flames, targeting their Regent. The spell resolves, so that buys us some time. Before anything else, they attack us for 3, that puts us at 12 life. Then they play and crack a Misty Rainforest, grabbing a 3rd basic. Ah geez, and they cast a back-breaking Blood Moon? That's really bad. Well, I guess we'll have to scoop then. Alright, here's the thing. We could bring in Wear Tear to deal with the Blood Moons, but honestly, that only really works if we have a white source untapped and the Wear Tear in hand, so as stupid as this might be, we're just gonna resubmit. Well, as much as we'd like the Chalices, we absolutely cannot keep a 1-lander. This is much better. We'll keep and ship a Lightning Bolt. Let's get things started with a Bloodstained Mire. They play a Spirebluff Canal and cast a Ragavan, followed by a Mishra's Bauble. That might be an indicator that they don't have a DRC. Either way, we'll regrettably crack our fetch for a Sacred Foundry. That way we can cast our Lightning Bolt. This'll take care of the Ragavan for sure, but it does limit our ability to reach the 5 land types. On our upkeep, they crack their Bauble. We draw fetch, not bad. Let's play an untapped Stomping Ground, then we'll cast the Chalice for 1. It resolves, so no forces. Chalice is incredible in this matchup, but it is worth noting that they can operate around it. They play Spirebluff number 2 and cast a Serum Visions. That'll get countered. No doubt attempting to fill the yard for a Murktide Regent, and that appears to be it. We draw a copy of Tribal Flames, excellent. Let's play and crack the Flooded Strand, finding a breeding pool. Then we'll cast the General. It resolves, and we'll send it back. Up next, they play and crack a Misty Rainforest, grabbing a basic island. Here comes a Murktide Regent. Once again, it's a 5/5, but this time around, they have no other choice. Drawing a Scion, which we unfortunately can't cast since we don't have Swamp as a land type. This is a bit of a setback, but we do have time. On their turn, they play a Fiery Islet and cast a Bauble, immediately attacking us for 5. That takes us to 7. After damage, they crack their Bauble, drawing a card during our upkeep. We see a Bloodstained Mire, that's just what we needed. Let's play and crack it, grabbing a Triome. Then we'll cast the Flames, targeting the Regent. In response, they crack their Islet, and it resolves. Beautiful. We'll swing in for 3, and now we wait. They cast an Expressive Iteration, exiling a Thought Scour and playing a Spirebluff Canal. Then they jam it, once again attempting to load up the yard. We draw another copy of Tribal Flames. Let's cast the Scion, then we'll attack for 3, this time with Vigilance. After damage, we'll cast the Flames, bringing their life total down to 8. On their main phase, they cast a Thought Scour, and then an Unholy Heat, both of which get countered, and that paves the way for an incredibly massive Murktide Regent. Drawing a Kavu. Okay, so we're more or less locked in debating them. I have no idea if that's gonna work, but we'll give it a shot. Let's swing in. They block, so we lose our General, but it damaged their Murktide, which is key. Now we can evoke the Fury, targeting their Murktide Regent and dealing the final 4 points of damage. Up next, they untap and cast a Blood Moon, followed by a Steam Vents. This turns off a good amount of our spells, but they only have a single card remaining. We draw Helix, can't cast that, so let's swing in. That takes them down to 4, and they scoop it up. GG's, opponent. Okay, looks like we found our opponent. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand seems decent enough. Not super exciting, but it'll get the job done. Oh boy, and they start things off with an Inspiring Vantage into a Goblin Guide, attacking us for 2 and revealing a Scion. Now, normally we'd be pretty excited to have a Helix against Burn, but we're basically running Fetch and Shockland Tribal, which is not the move as it turns out. Either way, we draw the Scion. We've got no choice but to play our Fetch and send it back. They jam a Fiery Islet, then cast a Vortex. Alright, we can operate around that, but Cascade and Life Gain is looking real bad right now. Attacking us for 2 and drawing a fetch. After damage, we'll crack the Flooded Strand and find a Triome. The Vortex pings us for 1, and we draw Steam Vents. I think we'll just play the basic Mountain, not just to hold up the Helix, but to make casting our eventual Scion as painless as possible. They take 1, jamming an Arid Mesa, as they swing in for another 2. To no one's surprise, we draw land. Before damage, let's Helix their dude. In response, they activate their Vortex, turning our Helix into a Lightning Bolt, and that seems to be all they have. After taking a point of damage, we draw a rather unhelpful Shardless Agent. Let's play our Steam Vents tapped. This nets us the 5 land types, that way we can cast our Scion for 2. During our end step, they crack their fetch, grabbing an untapped Sacred Foundry, casting a Boros Charm. Things are getting tense. For what it's worth, they are taking a good amount of damage as well, just from their lands in the Vortex. Regardless, they cast another Goblin Guide, followed by a Lava Spike, and then they pass. Vortex will take us down to 5 as we draw Mantis Rider, phenomenal. Think we'll play a tap Stomping Ground, then cast the Rider, attacking them for 7 in the air, that brings them down to 6. Before their next turn, they cast a Lightning Bolt, Moment of Truth, let's see if their hand is any good, and they hard cast a Rift Bolt, that'll do it. So in this matchup, I think we can likely cut the Bloodbraids and a single copy of Manamorphose. That way we can bring in the 3 Chalices and the 2 copies of Weather the Storm. There's something to be said about bringing in more removal, but we should be fine. Yeah, we'll give it a go. Chalice on the play, I'll take this hand every day of the week. Let's start things off with a Bloodstained Mire. They play a fetch of their own, cracking it for a basic and casting a Goblin Guide, attacking us for 2, revealing a general. After damage, we'll crack our fetch and grab a Triome. We draw another Mantis Rider, not bad. Let's play and crack the fetch, once again going for a basic, and finally casting the Chalice for 1. Up next, they play a Horizon Land and swing in for 2, revealing a Kavu. That takes us to 14. We draw the Kavu, think we'll just play our fetch, then cast it. Shardless Agent or one of our other 3-drops are super appealing, but I'd rather avoid taking damage from lands unless we absolutely have to. On our end step, they play a Boros Charm, taking our life total down to 10, keeping things rather uneventful as they play a fetch and send it back. Let's crack our Foothills, grabbing a second Triome. Ooh, and we draw Helix, excellent. Time to get aggressive. We'll swing in, discarding the redundant Mantis Rider and drawing a Tribal Flames. They block our big dude. This might be a bit risky, but I think we'll just cast our general. Alright, they cast Lightning Helix on our end step. We might be dead. Or not, they pass straight through their turn. We draw another Kavu. Might as well swing in with a team, dumping the Shardless Agent and hitting another Tribal Flames. That takes them down to 12. Oh wow, and they cast a proactive Skullcrack. We'll respond with our Helix, netting a token. So now they need land into running 2-mana burn spells, and they scoop it up, nice. I'm happy with the changes that we made, but I think we can swap out the remaining Manamorphose for a copy of Wear Tear. Yep, looks good to me. This hand is really good, but I wonder if it being on the draw will make it too slow. Only one way to find out. They get things rolling with a basic mountain into a Goblin Guide. They are 3 for 3 on opening goblins, hard to argue with that. Attacking us for 2 and revealing a Kavu. We draw it. Let's play the Bloodstained Mire and send it back. Up next, they play and crack a fetch, grabbing a Sacred Foundry. Then they cast a Lava Spike, followed by a suspended Rift Bolt, hitting us with a Goblin Guide once again, this time drawing a Sacred Foundry. We're at 13. On their end step, let's crack our fetch and grab a Triome. Drawing a Mantis Rider, let's jam the Sacred Foundry. So now the choice is between either Chalice or Kavu. Kavu slows down their ground game to a halt, but if they have any 1-drops left, Chalice is amazing. You know what? Let's just cast the Chalice. This could be wrong, but we're going for it. Rift Bolt comes off suspend, taking our life total down to 7. They play a Horizon Land, attacking us for 2 and revealing a Mantis Rider. We're at 5, and then they just pass. There's the Mantis Rider, so I think we'll just play the Steam Vents tapped and then cast Kavu number 1. In response, they cast a Lightning Helix, taking us to 2. Our creature resolves. Alright, let's see what happens. And they cast a Skullcrack during their upkeep for the W. GG's opponent, that was fun. Alrighty, looks like we found our opponent. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand is sadly not keepable. Neither is this one, really. Alright, lands and spells, this'll work. Certainly won't be going down to 4. Think we'll ship the basic and the Steam Vents. I guess we'll start things off with a Bloodstained Mire and see where this goes. They get things rolling with a Blackcleave Cliffs into a DRC, followed by a Mishra's Bauble. During their end step, we'll crack our fetch and grab a Triome. This might seem weird to some of you since they have a creature that needs to be answered and we aren't getting an untapped red source, but this ensures that we have all 5 land types. We draw Temple Garden. Let's play our Sacred Foundry untapped and bolt the DRC. They crack their Bauble. Up next, they cast a Thoughtseize, no doubt taking our general. Yes, indeed. Then they play an untapped Blood Crypt and even cast an Inquisition. For what it's worth, that seems like a decent trade, especially since we just drew a Kavu. Let's play the Temple Garden, then we'll cast it. If this survives, we'll be in a great spot. Interesting. On their main phase, they play an Urza Saga. Is this a new development in Rakdos Luris? Haven't played the deck in a while. Either way, they choose to pass. This more or less guarantees that they have some form of instant, otherwise they would have at the very least added their Luris to hand. We draw Kavu, and that appears to be the case as they cast a K command on our draw step. So much for that. Let's take the opportunity to swing in and start exiling some of their stuff, starting with the Mishra's Bauble. That takes them down to 11, and then we'll pass. To start things off, they uptick their Urza Saga, jamming an untapped Stomping Ground Ground and casting their DRC. Ooh, and the hits don't stop. Mantis Rider is really good here. We'll cast it right away, then swing in with a team, exiling their K command. This is interesting. They're choosing to block with their DRC, and only after that do they activate their Urza Saga. To me, this shows that they've given up on the graveyard, or at the very least, Delirium. The DRC dies. Uptaking the Saga once again, they make another token and find themselves a Spell Bomb. We draw Steam Vents. See, I was just going to comment about how anticlimactic their turn was. Karma, I guess. Let's attack with the team, this time choosing to discard a land, only to draw a replacement. Nice. They go for the double block. That'll be a 2-for-1. Then cast an Unholy Heat, targeting our Rider. I guess we'll just play the Mountain and pass. Up next, they add the Lures to hand, playing a basic Mountain and casting a Shadow Spear. Gonna have to draw something good. Scion is a start. Let's cast it. On their turn, they jam their Lurrus, playing another land as they cast a Bauble, cracking it immediately. Then they buy it back and do it again, drawing 2 cards during our upkeep, also deciding to cash in the Spell Bomb. And wow, they just scoop it up. Must have seen some burn or something. Okay, so we're just gonna improv the sideboard. We'll be cutting the Bloodbraids, 2 copies of Manamorphose, and a single copy of Scion. That way we can bring in the Chalices and 2 copies of both Rest in Peace and Path. Looks good to me. Alright, so this hand should do nicely. Shardless Agent represents great card advantage, and Lightning Bolt answers their dudes. They start things off with a Bloodstained Mire, cracking it for a Blood Crypt, then they cast a Ragavan. We draw Scion. Let's play and crack the Foothills, grabbing a Stomping Ground, and then we'll bolt their Ragavan. Before anything else, they cast an Inquisition, discarding a Shardless Agent. Then they play an Urza Saga and cast a Spell Bomb, drawing a Tribal Flames. Since we had to get a shock turn 1, this means that we just have to play a fetch and wait till turn 3. They uptick their Urza Saga, then play and crack a Verdant Catacombs, finding themselves a basic forest. That's unexpected. During their end step, we'll crack our fetch, grabbing a Triome. Then we see a General. Let's play fetch number 3, cracking it and grabbing a Sacred Foundry. So now we can cast the Scion while also holding up a Lightning Bolt. Before their next turn, they activate their Saga, getting a token. Then they do it again. Think we'll just bolt one of their dudes, finding themselves a Shadow Spear. Then they play a Bloodstained Mire and send it back. We draw Helix, not bad. With that in mind, let's stay aggressive and cast the Shardless Agent, hitting a Kavu. Then we'll attack for 4 in the air, taking their life total down to 12. On our end step, they crack their fetch for an Overgrown Tomb. We're seeing a bit of a green bias here. Then on their main phase, they play and crack a Bloodstained Mire, this time getting a Mountain. Here comes a Tarmogoyf. They equip the Shadow Spear, drawing another Triome. Why not? Since our Kavu has first strike, we'll swing in with both him and the Scion. Let's exile the Saga, shrinking the Goyf. They block the Kavu. Before damage, we'll cast the Lightning Helix. That'll deal enough damage to the Goyf so it dies from the first strike hit, negating any lifelink and enabling trample. Then the Scion will take them down to 5. Honestly, I think we got this. They play another land and cast a replacement Goyf, equipping the Shadow Spear once again. We draw Chalice. Let's cast the Tribal Flames, and they scoop it up. GG's. And there you have it. Domain Aggro is shockingly fun. I feel like this build lends itself to a ton of customization. I know people have been playing a Lurrus variant of this deck, but even outside of that, there's so much room to explore. Be it different creatures, making the deck more tempo-oriented, including cards like 3-mana Teferi, the sky's the limit. I wanted to apologize if my voice sounded a bit shaky at any point in this video. Apparently when you stop commentating for a week, you start to suck at it. So I'll do my best to improve for next week. With that said, if you like my content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. This stuff really does help, so thank you. And as always, stay safe out there and have a good one.